Hello, good evening. Do not adjust your sets. Ant Baker has suddenly not got a lot more handsome than he was last time you saw him. Unfortunately, he's not very well. He sends his regards to anyone that knows him. So we have a guest with us today, someone I've known a while, but I'll introduce him in a minute. But just to explain that this is Seedcast. We are broadcasting on a number of channels, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, and on Clubhouse. And probably something else I've forgotten as well. I'll introduce John in a minute, but one of the things they've explained to me was recently was when you get COVID, you lose your sense of taste. Now, I thought this was to do with how much you eat. Apparently not. Apparently, according to Ant, it's not just what you eat that makes you lose taste. Anyway, Ant, thought I'd share that. Hope you're feeling better soon, mate. I better introduce John Newling. John, good evening.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, I guess, wherever they are.
Wherever they are. So we should start off perhaps by explaining, well, you should introduce yourself. Now, normally at this point, Ant does an introduction, explains who he is and what we're looking forward to and so on and so forth. But really, I think we should start off by introducing guests first. So do you want to give a bit of background about who you are?
Yeah, be pleasure. My name is John Newlin. I'm the co-founder and director of a company called Tickling Trout. It's nothing to do with trout or tickling, but it was an awful lot to do with Bombay Gin at the time. So if you want the full story, just let me know and I can tell you that.
Do we need to bring gin to get the full story?
Oh, yeah. If anyone tells you that alcohol is bad for you, this story will allay all of those fears. So I run a specialist marketing company. And like most other people, I've endured this year. We've been going for about 13 years, and I've enjoyed the last 12, shall we say?
Oh, okay. Ant sends a note. Apparently, he's still more handsome than me. Well, that just shows you how ill he really, really is, right?
I just want to know whose away kit that is.
No, I think he's a goalie, isn't he? I think he's a goalkeeper.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. Yeah.
I've no idea. I should ask him. I mean, he plays a lot of sport. He does golf, and he occasionally drops into conversation at least twice a week that he was a world champion windsurfer multiple times. But if you weren't aware of that, you are now.
That's a great golfing outfit.
A great golfing. Maybe he does play golf in that. So thank you, John. Yeah, it's the Johns this evening. So my name is John Fuggles. I run a company called Mission 23. We are a group of independent consultants. He is a goalkeeper. Thank you, Ant. Where was I? Distracting me. So if you want to chat, if you want to send us messages, please do. You can send us through multiple platforms. We will be checking various platforms at various times to see if you sent any messages. Ant is obviously clearly feeling better by his comments, but he plays rugby football Saturday and Sunday in the pink outfit. I guess it's fine on a dark night. So I run a company called Mission 23. We are a strategy consultancy. We advise companies on fundamentally what it is they need to do to grow their business, what it is they need to do to move on to the next level. We're not a sales or marketing agency. We advise you on the strategy. And you may have seen Ant and myself on Monday morning as part of his Daily Bake. And on Friday, there's Joella Bruckshaw also doing the Daily Bake with Ant. So he's a busy chap, but he's obviously just skiving off this evening. So there you go. So, John, just to explain to people how much prep goes into this. Tell the truth now.
Oh, absolutely none. You called me how many hours ago? 3 or 4 hours ago. And I said, is there anything to prepare? And you went, no. And that's it. So I come in completely fresh, not knowing where it's going to go. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Because we do get asked, right? How much prep goes into this?
Absolutely none. And to be fair, John did call me whilst I was in the middle of doing a very tricky bit on a website. So it was head down anyway. So I had to wait until about 6:30. The only one, to be fair, the preparation I have done is I've been on a lockdown, no haircut, no shave. So the one bit of prep I did is Sandy has cut me down to a number 2 about half an hour before because I was looking a little bit woolly. So
a little bit Wurzel Gummidge.
Yes.
Yes, if anyone knows who he is. So I sent you a note and said, well, there's a couple of things we should talk about if you're up for that. It was inflation and book writing. completely different subjects, but there is a reason for this. Because I was reading an article just recently in a newspaper and talking about inflation is coming, and I guess that kind of makes sense, right? You've got the government stuffing wads of cash down the back of the sofa as fast as they can, or back of everyone's sofa as fast as they can to sit at home and earn some money. Which, to be fair, sitting at home earning money, there's a lot of people would have lived for that for a long time.
Yeah. Most people have gone for a bounce back loan, or as I would like to call it, a bounce forward loan, because it makes no sense not to do that, because at the moment it's free money. So you can either use it to stay alive, or you can use it to actually market more and actually build your business.
But there's an interest rate on it, no?
But at some point, this is a couple of cents. But at some point, that nothing's free. No free lunch. At some point, that has to be paid back, and everything else that's gone into it has to be paid back. And I think that has to be done. You've got to raise inflation to do that.
Well, it's true, because I mean, people think about inflation, and some of us are old enough to remember when it was torrid in this country with huge inflation. Inflation's a natural
on one day, wasn't it?
Again?
15% one day.
One day, 15%.
It was somewhere like 1991, and I thought I've got 3 months left, and I'm going to get chucked out of my house. But I think it was only one day it went to 15%.
That's like Zimbabwe.
Oh yeah, it was, honestly. It was
nuts.
Horrible.
Nuts. Well, we're not talking about that then, I hope.
No.
Good. So inflation, right, is obviously the price of everything goes up. Well, so is there a natural inflation because of Brexit? Can we talk about the B word? Or is it a government thing? Because we're going to get inflation, but what does it look like? And what do we do?
I think that whether you were for Brexit or against Brexit, it's going to give us some level of freedom. It's already told us that we've been able to do the vaccinations quicker than most other people because of that. And I think we've got to look. Yes, there's going to be some downsides, but we've got to look at the opportunities of being on our own. And that means if we can grow quicker, if we've got a bit more inflation, that means people are going to invest in this country more because they're going to get a better return. So whilst we've, since I've run my business, we've pretty much no inflation. It would be nice to have a bit of inflation and actually see things physically grow. And it's got to happen, because this is like coming out of the war. There's a whole lot of money that we've got to pay back. It is interesting that in the war that most of the money we borrowed was from America, which we then paid back over a few decades. But it seems that every country has now borrowed money. So who have they borrowed money from? That's the interesting one.
I've seen the picture of those people on the front of tabloids being abused and all that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a cyclical thing, right? Everyone's loaning and borrowing. There's a film about that, isn't there?
I believe so. I believe so.
Yeah. Didn't end well for most people. But that's an interesting thing. So is inflation then something we want to happen, or is it just a cause and effect of everything that's gone on before?
It's like anything. If it's well managed, then it's good. If it's out of control, then of course it's bad, because one's chasing the other. But I think if you've got well managed inflation, then it shows good, healthy growth.
A bit like your beard.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need inflation, and then we've got to get it under control somehow, and all that. But you talked about the bounce back loans as well. So all those are going to have to be paid back.
Yep.
So inflation technically makes, over the course of it, makes the cost of that loan cheaper.
Well, yes, it does. It does. So that's why it can be advantageous. And again, if you're having to use it to stay alive, then that's money you've got to pay back. We've borrowed it. We didn't actually need it. So if we wanted to, we could pay the whole thing back. We may not do, because we may think that it's better used in other areas to grow the business.
Right.
But it's just one of those things. Once in a lifetime, you're going to get. You need time often in business, and suddenly for a lot of people there's been time to do stuff. You can't buy time, and we've got time, and we've been given money. So we've got to look at it and use it the right way. If we use it the right way, we'll create more wealth. That inflation will start to grow. And normally it's the Bank of England that provides the reins on it and controls that inflation rate and the mortgage rate and everything else to make sure that it's well managed.
The lightness of touch, as Gordon Brown described it.
Well, yeah, and you know, I'm apolitical, but that makes sense to me. That makes perfect sense.
Right. So, but what about the companies that can't afford to pay it back? I mean, there are a lot of companies that this isn't so much a lifeline. This is, you know, the respirator, right? And as soon as you that's it.
And you know, there's one big guarantor there, and it's the government. So there is going to be an awful lot of money that's going to be written off, and again, that's got to be recovered somehow, and that's going to be recovered through taxes. You know, we don't know what VAT or whatever is going to be, but we have to accept that that's going to be the case.
Okay, so everyone, you're listening to Seedcast with our guest John Newlin this evening, because Ant Baker is ill, so it's the brothers John this evening. You know, I'm the young, shaven, debonair-looking one, and you're not.
Old and wise, I think, is the term.
But seriously, Ant, get better soon. Now, the other thing we were going to talk about was your books. Well, not your books, but is that your cat?
Books in general.
Is that your cat?
Where is he? Oh, he's laying down at the moment, so he's you know, you can just see his foot.
I want to come back as a cat because they just lay around and do nothing all day long.
They do. It's such a spoilt life.
But books, because I mean, you were talking just a moment ago about, you know, people are taking money to try and either, you know, keep the business alive or grow their business. And everyone, you know, thinks they can write a book, wants to write a book, but it's I've noticed the number of people who have written or are writing, and the number of book writing courses, it's just grown exponentially. It's like the do thing.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, you know, there is the desire to write a book, but it's like, where do I start? And I know, you know, the obvious thing is, right, just start typing, but a lot of people need some sort of methodology to use. And I went on a course, and it was a whole day course, but at the end of it was basically two simple things. It was write 500 words a day. And if you don't know what to write, you go to your laptop and you type in, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And at some point, your brain is going to go, oh, write this. And 500 words isn't a lot. And it's that eating the elephant, you know, a chunk at a time. And that's how I started. I had a little reminder in my diary every day at 4 o'clock, write 500 words. And that's how I did mine. It then languished in draft for a long time, because sometimes for a lot of people it's cathartic, and just the writing and get it into draft is enough. And you know, my mum wrote a book in the 70s. We didn't get it published until 2010. But I was talking to, this sounds very posh, I was talking to my publisher, and the reason he's my publisher is we support the same football club. But he said,
just
sorry,
they wear pink.
No, that don't believe they do. I don't believe they do.
And Baker, take note, please. Pink, not the football colour.
And he said, look, I like your book. If you're ever going to publish it, probably now's the time to do it, because it explores the mindset, and people's mindsets were all over the place, especially in lockdown 1. And what it does is I feel there's a bravery in going from draft to publish, because you suddenly lay yourself completely open to any comment and criticism about what you've written. The one comment I had before I published it, and I did send it to a guy who's written a few books, and he said, right, take out all the apologies, because I was apologizing for certain things. And he said, you've done the work, you've done the sort of research, so you were an authority, so don't take out the apologies. And so I went through and I did that. My daughter went through and corrected pretty much every paragraph. It was like going back to school. But yeah, other than that, it's good. And you know, I'm never gonna earn much money. I'm probably not even gonna break even on the book, but that's not the point. The point is that when somebody now looks me up, they can see that I'm a real person. I've written something. I'm you know, well, hey, I'm an author.
So is it too easy to write a book then? Is that what you're trying to say? Or not write it, but get it published?
Oh, it's yeah. The actual process of publishing, it was very, very straightforward. You know, you give the guy some money, and he creates the ISBN, does the metadata and everything else. He did the design for me, and lo and behold, it came 100 copies came through the book, came through the post. Of course, I had the interesting thing is that how do I launch it in the middle of lockdown? And I did it as a similar thing to one of these. So I had 15 questions, and whilst I was signing the books, was I signing them? Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was pretending to sign them. I was answering those questions, and that seemed to work quite well as well. So, but what you find is once you start writing a book, you then write the second one, the third one, the fourth one. So,
I've been to multiple book signings. None of them look like signatures. It's how quickly can you move a pen across a piece of paper? So Malcolm Baker says hello and good evening, and wants to know if it's pink or salmon. It's most definitely pink. Let's be clear. So book. Okay, so it's easy to write a book, and everyone's kind of getting online and sort of doing this thing of write a book, give a chapter away for free, or extract blogs out of it, and all that kind of stuff. And everyone's a publisher, everyone's an author, everyone's a journalist. And then of late, and it's been around a little while, but it's kind of just grown, and then it's suddenly taken off, particularly over in Europe, is Clubhouse, which is a completely different thing to book writing. And then you got Facebook saying they want to get into something like that, and I'm sure Google will, and everyone else will at some point. I just wonder where this is all going, because everyone suddenly wants to write a book. Everyone suddenly wants to be on Clubhouse. Are we actually ever going to do any work?
Well, that's the big point, isn't it? Is that you want to find time to do these things, but at the end of the day, you've got to bring money in.
More importantly, you want to find time to be on Seedcast, obviously.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, because it's of great value. It is, but yeah, it's. I think what it is that when people talk about investing, and they invest in this and that. This I see writing a book is investing in yourself, because what you're doing is you're raising your own profile, and it's a positional thing. And what it also allows you to do, it allows you to talk on that subject without necessarily selling yourself as such. So from that side, that has worked really well for me. When I was allowed to do presentations, people were interested in what I was writing about. And as you know, we're both petrol heads. The first book that I wrote was I was actually commissioned by Veloce. But that was very easy because they gave you a number of words for each section, and that was it. It was very structured, and that probably took me a couple of months to do. Writing my book, you start with a clean sheet. So again, it's how do you write it? Now, my current book that I'm writing, which is about my IT career and how IT has changed beyond recognition in 40 years. I've written the start and I've written the end.
So I mean, you've been around a while. So what was Countess Lovelace like?
The interesting thing is I think I got it in my book that a gig of memory in 1981 was $300,000, and now it's 10 cents.
Okay, that's wow. Yeah. So I mean, you talked about writing a book. I mean, I'm in the credits of about half a dozen books, which is a whole lot easier way of getting your name in a book. To be fair, someone just asks you for a quote, or you send something in. But this idea of everyone writing a book because they got something to say, and this cathartic thing, you said something there, which was people were asking you about when you were writing the book, which is interesting because I started dabbling a while ago. I'm up to about 25,000 words now, so about a quarter of the way, third of the way, and it's something I enjoy doing. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I've got an hour of just writing, and I find it. Well, actually, it's not true. I've got an hour of staring at a keyboard, but I do find it quite interesting, quite, as you said, cathartic, quite relaxing. But I do wonder if and I've had people ask me how it's going. I do wonder if when it's published, nobody's going to ask anymore. And it's not the getting the book written, it's the process of writing it.
Yeah, it is. And definition of success is not that you're going to be another J.K. Rowling. Definition of success is that you've gone through that process and you exist. Effectively, you're immortal now, because you've written a book and your name is on a book.
Right.
The same thing as, say, my mum wrote a book in the 70s, and it was about her mum. And she realized that the children coming through weren't going to know her mum. So she started writing about her mum. And it was all about her trying to move up the social ladder. And she failed and failed. And it was called The Broken Ladder. And as I say, we got it published the day before she died, which is all very lovely. But Woking Library have got copies of that because they've got dates and times, but they haven't got the stories around the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Do you know? I said to my daughter a little while ago. I said, you were talking about the book, and I said, well, when it's published, I'll give a signed copy to your school. And her response was, "Why would we want that?"
Most people tell me my unsigned versions are worth more.
Okay, so so are you saying that we should all write a book, or are you just saying that?
Oh, you've got to have the want to do it, and you've got to have, right, what is my desire? Is it a desire to be a top 10 sales? Then that's a wholly different thing. You probably got to put a lot more effort into it. If it was like me, it's about positioning, then yes, it's worth doing. I think it is worth doing because it does help position you as some level of authority. It almost doesn't matter what the subject is about.
Right.
You have some level of authority, and people will listen and be interested. And what it is because the way I write, I'm quite open about what I put in the book. They then know me better, and that helps as well.
So Malcolm's just sent a note. If you wrote a book about his life, too many ex-teammates will want to lynch him. I'm guessing that's not a kiss and tell then book.
No. Yeah, the IT one, I've had a lot of people that have said, look, can you wait until I die before you publish it? I said, no, there's nothing in there. There's the odd one where people profess their love to me whilst drunk, but that's nothing more than that.
But that's the point. How honest do you have to be in some of these books? Because some of them, the problem is some books I read are so benign because it's so sterile, and yet you go the other way and it's like, you're going to get hanged.
Yeah, exactly. Is it faction or is it the people that are gonna that want to sort of stir things up? And what you often find is that if you want to make sales, then you've got to be contentious. And if you're contentious, then you're more likely to get people interested. But yeah, that wasn't my goal in the book I'm writing at the moment. It was just the fact that I could see that an awful lot had changed in IT, bar one thing, because the book is called A Load of BIOS, and the only thing that didn't change in 47 years was the BIOS.
I have no idea what that even means, but thank you.
I can explain it to you because I am a geek. But the idea behind it is some of the fun stories behind it. One is I was upgrading these PCs from the 5.25 inch floppies to the 3.5 inch, what they call stiffies. And I'd copied all the data across, and I got a call from a user saying they couldn't read the disk, and they'd taken the 5.25 inch, folded it in half, and put it in, and wondered why they couldn't read it. So, all sorts of things. There's similar things happen nowadays where people just don't have an understanding of it, and it was just good stories. And you belong to an American software company, and you're forever going over on sales conferences, and all sorts happens over there. But nothing too incriminating.
Lynn Y said you're inspirational from listening to you. So I suspect Lynn is either going to start a book as soon as we've finished, or already has, and she just needs a bit of a proverbial.
She loves me.
Oh, okay.
She loves me.
We need to talk about your trips to America in a minute because there's something you and I need to share with the audience. But let's talk about that. When you go to your conferences in the US, you have a certain dress code.
Yeah, and it's again, we're being separated by the same language. Smart casual is casual over there, and the English tend to have some sort of reputation in America. Because if you're an international software company, you've got the German team, you've got the French team, you've got the English team, you've got the Spanish team. And of course, you've got the Americans as well. They'll all go to bed about 9:30, 9:45. That allows us to get to the piano and start, singing and whatever else. We did find an Irish bar in Seattle, which was absolutely fantastic. That at closing time, we started singing, and they called the police. But it's an Irish bar.
I was thinking more about what you wear.
Well, actually, it was interesting. As a software company, we had more apparel coming out of that company than I think we did software. So they were all t-shirts all the time.
And kilts.
Ah, yes. Now, kilts. This is the mother of all invention. Is that necessity? You've got to pull something out of the bag. And when we started a business, we had nothing to rub together, and we had the opportunity of a local stand. We thought we'll put it on the credit card. We then had no money.
I say kilts, and you say you had nothing to rub together.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I did get that out. And we had nothing to show on the stand. And David suggested that we can borrow a pair of kilts, which I thought was a great idea at the time, which was 2 months, 3 months ahead. On the morning, I'm thinking, what have we done? What have we done? It was on a cold March morning. We then realized we had to walk through the town to get to the center. I've got a newfound respect for women now on a cold morning. Absolutely newfound respect. And everyone was looking and smiling. And I did say to David, I said, yeah, we are a bit conspicuous here. And he said, yeah, you're fine. You're 6'3". I'm 5'8". Who's the bitch? But at the end of the day, we had the PR. We were in the papers because we were two guys wearing kilts, and it cost us nothing. And I think it's just trying to be inventive to be remembered. The name Tickling Trout was the whole idea, is you want the company to be remembered.
The thing is with the kilts, of course, no one else can copy you, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very clever. Very clever.
If I'd have known at 18 what a pulling outfit a kilt was, I'd have had one then.
That's what you're in marketing. Look, it's just coming up to 7:30. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here as a guest, dropping in
really enjoyed it.
at the last minute while Ant is suffering, poor chap. So feedback from you. Have you enjoyed it?
Absolutely, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I think these are going to happen more and more because there's always a little bit that somebody can take from this conversation, and the next conversation there'll be other bits that people can take, and half an hour out for people is not a long time, and it makes the idea of networking just so much more efficient than it ever was. So I think these are just grow and grow.
Yeah, I mean, Ant and I do this. We started off doing this on a one-to-one basis, just talking about his work and my work, and then he suggested, why don't we just record it and see what happens, and then it kind of went on from there, really. And he's still listening. Gosh, he's obviously not as ill. He's obviously malingering. So it's kind of gone on from there. But I thoroughly enjoy it. It is, we've had multiple 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 people say they found it enjoyable and useful information. So that's the ones that I can see.
The thing is, you can be world class at getting ready, okay, and say, oh, this is not quite right, this is not quite right. You can have all the mistakes in part of this, which actually adds to it, but actually the one that you send out and stream live like this is always going to perform better than the one that you decided not to do.
Yeah, you can be too slick.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And these are real.
Yes. Yeah. So look, I appreciate it, John. Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure having you on as a guest. We might have to think about guest slots going forward. That's not to say, and you're fired. But, we may have to think about that. Maybe have someone else join us. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you, John. And thanks, Ant.
Yes, he'll send you the bill when he sees you, I'm sure. But this is Seedcast. My name is John Fuggles, and we have with us
John Newlin.
Ant Baker is ill, but he will be back hopefully next week. Until then, see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.